Kia ora and welcome to Tarmac. I'm Harry.
I'm Matthew, and this unidentified foreign object behind us is none other than the Leapmotor C10.
That's right, it's a new kid on the block, not only a new car but also a new brand in this very, very hot EV SUV segment. Come on and let's take a look at this.
Now, Zhejiang Leapmotor Technology Company, aka Leapmotor, was founded in 2015 in Hangzhou in China, and they went on to make their first car officially in about 2018/19. From there, well, they have spawned three different vehicle lines. They have the B, the T, and the C. The C being their sort of premium range of vehicles, and certainly the larger ones, which produced the C10 in 2023. But 2023 was a really special year for them for another reason, because that's when Stellantis, as you know, the parent company of Alfa Romeo, Fiat, Peugeot, Maserati, and probably 20 other companies, bought a 20% stake in Leapmotor, and through that partnership was born Leapmotor International, which became an arm essentially of the brand and of Stellantis to distribute Leapmotor vehicles across the international markets, which is why we have one sitting here today. And just for reference, Leapmotor, although they may be still considered a startup, well, they have sold, as of last July, 400,000, upwards of 400,000 vehicles in China alone in their first 9 years of being founded. Bear in mind, they were not making cars for all of that period as well. Then you add to that they are actually the first mass-produced brand to have a chassis or batteries integrated into the chassis and using that across all of their range. So they are not your average Chinese EV brand at all. To the C10, well, it's one of the larger products in their range, certainly the medium-sized SUV category over here, and it measures up at about 4.7 meters in length, just under 2 meters wide, and something like 1.67 meters in height, so it's not extremely tiny either. Design elements, as you can see, it has a unique look to it. So firstly, you have that Leapmotor badge on the top, something new in the market there. You have this LED sort of fascia here, the headlights, of course, that from certain angles almost look like they're taken from an Alfa Romeo Giulia. You've got the light bar that extends across the line there, and then this fascia, which then becomes quite sort of cubical and squarish shaped. So a few interesting design elements going on there. As you take a step further back, the thing to note is that this is not a performance model, this C10. It's definitely going for the affordability, the livability side of things. And you have 245 wide tires on here. These particular ones are Dunlop eSport Max, and they are actually relatively large. I quite like the spoked wheels as well on it, certainly in that polished gunmetal sort of color. Leapmotor badging on the side, and that does house the cameras, and it does certainly have a lot of cameras and angles to look around and make sure that you're safe. The mirrors themselves, certainly on the driver's side, house sort of a NFC connectivity hub, if you like, which using your Leapmotor key/credit card, you can actually tap on there and get the car to lock, unlock, start up, all of those things too. Walking further down, they have used a lot of piano black rather than any chrome, as you can see. So all the windows, the roof rail, stuff like that, all of that is finished, not to mention the mirror caps as well, in piano black plastic. Door handles here are flush with the body, and you just push them to open it up, and then what that does is actually flick on the indicators on the side that you have opened up the door. So something rather interesting there. As we take a few further steps back, you can see that it is a relatively large car, and certainly almost looks like it could house a third row of seats as well. So just like the front, the rear shares a lot of the same elements and certainly design language that we see on this particular Leapmotor C10. So firstly, you have a light bar again that goes across and drops down into the lights on various sides. You've got the Leapmotor nameplate across the back there spelled out, which is really good, because again, remember that this is not just a new brand name and badge, certainly in China itself, less than 10 years old there, but internationally, Leapmotor is less than 2 years, and certainly in New Zealand is a brand new nameplate. So it's important to have that going on so curious people can figure out what this actually is. C10 badging down there, as you can see, their font is different on both the badging for the name as well as the actual car itself. So something interesting there. C10, of course, which is their flagship product and is a nameplate, and has been a nameplate since September 2023 officially, when it was launched. You'll notice on this car, it does actually have a tow bar, very New Zealand specific over there, but the particular car has not been tow rated just as of yet. So I would hold off towing your boats and jet skis and caravans for the moment until official testing is done. Now, to actually get into this boot, you do have this little nook over here to stick your fingers in, but that doesn't actually have a button there. Instead, the button hides over here. So if you push that, it opens up to quite a generous 375-ish liters of boot space. And then with all the seats folded flat, you have something like 850 liters of boot space. So certainly very roomy from that sense, very generous, and a fairly decent heighted load lip there for ease of use. So firstly, underpinning the car, you have a 69.9 kilowatt hour battery. As I said before, with Leapmotor, one of their unique traits is that that's actually engineered into the chassis of the vehicle, making it a bit more rigid and certainly stronger in that sense. Now, what that battery gives, plus its motor, is 160 kilowatts of power and 320 Newton meters of torque, meaning that you can do that 0 to 100 kilometer sprint or leap in about 7.5 seconds. So it's no slouch either. On the range, it does all right too. So it's WLTP rated for about 414 kilometers of range, although various sources quote that slightly differently, plus or minus 10%. The one downside though of this car is that, yes, it does have AC and DC charging, as you can see there. It's nicely labeled, but the DC charging does top out at 84 kilowatts, which means that those big fancy public chargers, which have 150 kilowatts or 300 kilowatts of power, you can only use 84 of those. So it means that your charging stops might take a bit longer than planned. But all the more opportunity to top yourself up on McDonald's or what have you.
And the moment you jump inside of the Leapmotor C10, probably the first impression you will get is how minimalistic the whole approach they took really is. There are very few buttons for you to interact with, which creates this very sort of a technology-centric experience that we will cover in a bit. But about the touch points that you get around the cabin, you will see that pretty much everywhere that you touch has this soft feeling to it. Starting with the Ecotex seats that are really comfortable. They sort of you just will go into the seats and really be able to benefit from the 3 levels of heating and 3 levels of ventilation that they have, and also for pretty much everywhere else that you touch, you get that consistency of the comfort that it offers you. So the armrest gets the same level of treatment that the doors have. Then you get this difference of the materials that are used, where you have this sort of a, not exactly suede, but looks like it on the upper part of the door. Then it goes into this almost purple looking rubberized texture down below, and then it gets a little bit scratchy down below. But what they didn't sort of leave out of the equation are the storage solutions, because this is really, really good here on the Leapmotor. You get 2 cup holders at the front part of the center console. Then you get a big armrest storage here that will fit a lot of stuff. 2 other cup holders here, just a little bit back, and then a big cubby with all your charging solutions, even though you also have a wireless pad here at the top of the center console. Door bins are also really, really good, which makes for a very practical interior, at least here on the front part. But then what it also translates to is into a lot of visibility, because the cowl of the dashboard is pretty low and that there is a lot of glass. So considering the thin pillars and the amount of glass that you get throughout, not only is this a very comfortable driving position for you to be in, but you also feel safe with that commanding view of the road in heaps of visibility. There are also convenience and comfort features that you will benefit on a day-to-day basis, such as a really good suite of ambient lighting that looks really good at night, and a really good audio system that has 12 speakers scattered throughout the car, even using the sound bar here between the two A-pillars. And it's really good to see that not only is the backseat very spacious, it also benefits from all of that comfort. Being a family EV SUV, of course, the back seat portion of the car has to be sorted, and the Leapmotor definitely does get that part of the brief correct. As you can see here, it is a really roomy interior, not only for headroom, but also for knee room, even for my feet. And when you put that together with the fact that I can actually recline the back seats a little bit, it really makes for a very comfortable riding position back here. As I said before, you benefit from all the great touch points that you get up front, also the kick-ass sound system, and also this really big sunroof. You get the charging ports sorted in terms of USB-C and USB-A ports. You get your own the vents back here, a pocket for the stuff that you want to take with you on a trip. And if you bring down the center sort of armrest area in here, you don't get any cup holders or anything to put your devices, but it is, again, comfy and benefits from the ambient lighting. So the experience of the Leapmotor when you are on the driver's seat is dominated by this screen here in the middle of the dashboard, and you can clearly see that it was benchmarked against the industry leading from that regard. Let's put it that way. So the screen is sort of detached from the whole dashboard. It looks like it was stuck in here, and it pretty much looks like a sort of a state-of-the-art brand new tablet. The bezels are very thin. The responsiveness of the screen is really good. The quality of the image that you see is also really good. And what I am really sort of liking to see here is the attention to detail and the sort of the care that they have put on the visuals around everything in here. So if I go, for example, to my seat settings, you will be able to see here that everything sort of looks and feels in a way that makes sense. The way that you interact with things provides you with an instant feedback of what's happening. So it becomes really easy to understand whether or not you are actually doing the things that you are expecting to do. Even small things such as changing the vent speed. If I hold the button in here, I can then move up or down without having to actually go into the sort of climate settings to do all of that. But when I eventually go, then you can see you get a lot more options as to how you can customize things. So going back there, I can change, say, free air to the driver versus direct to the passenger. If I want to do free air, everything, I can do that. And then even if I hold the specific spots in here, I can change where the vents are blowing the air. So yes, it is a little bit more complicated than just moving the vents around, but it is moving that towards a little bit more technology and a little bit more convenience to customize it ever so slightly how you want. So making my way to the other settings in here, you then get access to a really good camera that looks frontwards, backwards, and also provides you with a 3D view in here. And again, very responsive, really works as you would expect it to, and really helps put such a large car exactly where you want to. In terms of media, we will pretty much just see this initial screen here with the Bluetooth media that is playing off of my phone. And this is where a big sort of a disclaimer or caveat about our review has to come into place, which is that this car that we are reviewing today is a pre-production model for which the app has not yet been made available. That's why we have been using the card to turn the car on and off and lock it, because we don't have yet the ability to move all things technology to the insides of the car just yet. This will be available in a little bit, and of course will unlock even more possibilities with the amazing technology that is built in here, but that means that for the time being, I only get Bluetooth to play for my media. The same then applies for navigation, because even though this here is really responsive and will allow for me to sort of move things around and select even charging stations for my journey, and even use voice commands to move things around and decide where to go. I had a little bit of a difficulty getting it to recognize Māori names. So it could be the case that it is not yet localized for New Zealand. There's heaps of stuff to cover in here, so bear with me for a little bit, because as we go to then settings, you will see how much stuff there is for you to customize. So starting with the lighting options, you can do stuff for the exterior and the interior. These are pretty off-the-shelf solutions, but one of the main things to cover in here is the fact that you can, of course, toggle between ambient light being on or off. There, you can pretty much choose any color that you want, and they respond really, really well. And even if you want to take it to the next level, you can attach it to the rhythm of the music, and then it really becomes a nightclub inside of the car. In terms of charging solutions, you will then see that what we are seeing here allows you to set a schedule for when you want to start and end your charging sessions. You can lock and unlock the charging cable and even define how you want your range to be calculated. Then in the driving, again, many things for you to customize in here. You will have access to eco, comfort, and sport mode out of the box. And if you want to customize a custom driving mode, these will be the options that you then have access to. You can only shift those driving modes by having one pedal mode turned off. So that's one thing to keep in mind. That will then also allow you to choose whether or not you want the car to move by itself at a stop or to auto hold. Then there will be other things for you to customize in terms of small tweaks to the driving behavior of the car. One of the big ones being this comfortable stop here, meaning that as you are coming to a stop on a traffic light, it will ease off the brake pedal a little bit for you to make for a smooth stop rather than that jerky one that can sometimes happen. Because as you will see on the drive, the braking behavior of the car is very particular in here. All right. So in terms of ADAS, or the driving assistance package, there is, again, many things for you to change in here, because the Leapmotor comes with 17 different assistances available for you from the go. And it can be a little bit sort of annoying and invasive at first, so I think that you will have to play around and find the ones that suit you the best or the worst. Of course, things such as going 1 kilometer over the speed limit, or whenever a speed limit changes, you get a bonk, is not exactly what you might want. So it's good to know that you can change all of these things as you go. In terms of the sound system, as I said before, it is really good. It has a lot of clarity, a lot of punch, and I think that it was a great surprise at this level in here. And you can also have the ability to do a little bit of EQ tweaking and change things such as surround or the dynamic of the sound, even with an actual proper equalizer to suit your taste the best. There will be other things that you can do in here with the display itself, such as a light and dark mode that you can change. We'll just have a quick look at how dark mode looks like, and then go back to light for the video. And then the voice assistance, which is helpful enough, although it sort of got a few things wrong every now and again. All right, so now join me for the look at the front screen, because even though there is so much to cover in here, this is not like one of those other EV SUVs that only has this single screen. And in the screen in front of the driver here in the instrument cluster, pretty much the idea is that it shows everything you need and nothing you don't. On the left side, you can see at all times the speed limit recognition that sits just above your speed, and then your gear indicator. The gears are shifted through the stalk here on the right, and they are as easy as can be in other cars that you might have seen in the past: up for reverse and down for drive. There's a lot of feedback, and it's really easy to understand. And then in the middle, you get a sort of silhouette of the car that will sort of change as you open doors and as you move into adaptive driving conditions. Then on the right, you get a sort of a portion of the screen that is reserved for menu readouts. In this case here, we have a power indicator, both for power and for charge, and then information about our drives since the start, and also for the trip computer. You can then shift those options that you are seeing on the right using this menu button here on the right stalk. So if I press once, we go into navigation, and then if we press it once again, we go into media, and then it cycles back to the drive information. The button up above will then be used for the voice assistance. If I press it, it'll bring my ability to chat with the car. And then this here, which is very reminiscent of another EV brand, you can use up and down to change your media volume, and then left and right to go for the next track or restart. If we then move to the left of the steering wheel, many of the things that you use in here are in regards to your, as I mentioned, adaptive driving conditions. For you to engage the adaptive cruise control, you press once to the right on the right stalk, and then you will use this here to control your speed up and down and the distance left and right. This button that we have here on the left, I have personalized it to bring the camera, but you can use it for very other options, including for one touch or two touches for two different options. And then probably one of the biggest head scratchers here inside of the car, the fact that you have a lock and unlock button at the steering wheel is a little bit out of the ordinary, but I guess they needed to put it somewhere, so they might as well put it in here. At the end of the day, there is a lot of technology in the car. Most of it is controlled via the big screen and the things that you have here at the stock. You have this camera that is at all times looking at you and making sure that you have your eyes on the road. So we might as well put it to the test and go for a drive of the Leapmotor C10. Setting off on the Leapmotor C10, and the first thing that you can notice is that as soon as we pass 30 kilometers an hour and this whir of the low-speed whine disappears, we are left with a very quiet ride, so that you can really soak in the comfort that it has on offer, and the technology and the kick-ass sound system and all of that. And which means that not only is it a good sort of a runabout for the city, but it can also be a relaxing drive for regardless if you are on the driver's seat on the passenger. So how are your impressions so far?
That's right. So what Leapmotor have done with the C10 is make it a lifestyle vehicle, and I think particularly from a Stellantis perspective as well, when you're looking at taking the car into international markets, somewhere like New Zealand or Australia, for example, where that ability to go on longer trips, to have that refinement on rougher roads, all of that becomes really important, because a car, anybody who owns a car like this, let's be honest, in New Zealand is not going to be just relegating it to an inner city. There will be road trips, there will be gravel roads. That is the nature of our country, right? And so I think the Leapmotor does really well in that refinement perspective.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think that in regards to everything that you will be expecting from a comfortable drive around the city and then hit the motorway, it's got that sorted. So the seats, as we mentioned, are very comfortable. It is now in ventilation mode, which is not something I use all the time. So I really do appreciate having that opportunity. And it is very quiet with the double glazed wind screen in front of you. And the suspension is calibrated in a way that brings that softness to the level where it is comfortable, but is not too wobbly or boaty around the bends. And yeah, it might not be a sports car, but it's not pretending to be one. It's trying to be that comfortable thing, and I think that it gets that brief sorted very well.
Although this is rear-wheel drive, so if you wanted to make it go sideways, theoretically, that's a possibility.
Yeah.
But that's not actually what Leapmotor was built on. It's not one of their founding principles. In fact, quite the opposite. What they wanted was to be a company that creates friendly innovations, that creates cutting-edge technology, and that creates affordable solutions for those things. And well, the funny thing is, the business is actually registered as a technology company, not a car company. So
interesting.
It's Leapmotor, or Zhejiang Leapmotor Technology Company. So yes, the drive is important, and I think so far the level of refinement and comfort that we've seen has spoken well to that. But what is the technology like in the way we interact with it, in the way we live with it, in the way we drive with its assistant. So I will pass over to Harry because he's spent a lot of time getting to know the ins and outs of the car through different scenarios.
Yeah, I think that, again, I need to bring it back to the caveat that we are dealing with a car that doesn't yet have all the bells and whistles from the technology standpoint that it will eventually have. So we are looking at it from the perspective of what it offers today. And it's a very comprehensive suite at that anyway. So it has all the ADAS systems, and yes, we turned off a few of them so that they will not intrude into the video in here. But you get adaptive cruise control that works really well. Stop and go traffic is handled through that as well. The screens are really responsive, and they have great levels of the level of information and customization that you can bring into that. So it is a technology first kind of car, no question about that. And it sort of tries to bring it back to the idea that we are sort of beating a dead horse here now with the comfort and the refinement and the isolation that it tries to bring to you. You mentioned the fact that it is rear-wheel drive, but you would probably never tell it because it's not a car to be driven outside of its comfort zone. The limits are very, very clear, and the moment you start pushing it a little bit, it will go into a very predictable kind of understeer. It just shows that this is a comfortable SUV. It's not something to be a canyon carver kind of car. And even when you try doing that, the sort of the build up of the EV power, as I floor it a little bit here, you can see it's so smooth and so predictable. It is not trying to be that breakneck kind of speed car. It's really trying to bring it back to what EVs are supposed to be about in the city. Quiet, an isolation pod that you just sit on these great seats and you enjoy the great sound system and you go from point A to B, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Although one of the benefits of this, well, Leapmotor is in such a unique place as a Chinese EV brand because they have involvement from Stellantis and all of the expertise and different arms that Stellantis can bring to help Leapmotor develop their car essentially. And one of those has been some handling and suspension testing through Maserati, actually. So in that sense, they have, even though they are a technology company, have worked on that side of the business using that Stellantis joint venture partnership to build on that. There are a couple of downsides, admittedly, with having this much technology involvement, I think, in the car. So one of those things is the fact that you do not have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto connectivity, and the disclaimer around your information use and collection is a little bit vague in that sense, where it doesn't leave you completely secure in terms of your feeling of privacy. But you know, that's a topic for a different day. The other thing is, I think the involvement of the technology in everyday driving is something noteworthy, and not in such a good way, because it tends to beep at you a lot, from lane departure warning, over speeding, driver attention monitoring, forward collision warning, if you're changing lanes, for example, and it had picked up there was a car in your blind spot, it will beep at you for that. So it does do a lot of that through the course of a drive, which can be a little bit annoying. But the good thing is that 2 clicks of the screen will have you into the ADAS menu, where you can then go and turn all of that off or adjust it accordingly. Again, it's something that needs to be done at every drive, but thankfully it's only 2 easy clicks to go and turn all of that off, because we have seen much more difficult setups to interact with. So.
Yeah, I could not agree more with you. And of course, we get this sort of impression because we are in and out of different cars all the time. A few friends of mine that had a little bit of time to interact with this didn't pick on these things at all, right? So your mileage will vary. Just go around and check the car and see how you feel around all of these systems. It's great that you have the ability to change and tailor to your liking. But yeah, definitely sometimes it can be a little bit quirky, even with the monitoring that you have in here. Also with the sensors on the seat. For my wife, she's a little bit smaller, so it was probably struggling to pick up on the fact that she was actually sitting on the driver's seat and was complaining about that. So yeah, by all means, go try it out to see how you feel. And it's undeniable that it is a software first kind of car. So there are heaps of pros and cons about that.
So there you have it, the Leapmotor C10. Even though they are a relatively new company, and certainly very much so in New Zealand, this is their first offering, the C10, and one of many, I believe, because they are going to bring the rest of their range here. So, first impressions?
Yeah, very good, very positive. It is very clear that they know what they're doing. It doesn't feel like a first effort. It feels like a car of a brand that sort of have tried other things before. So it might not necessarily excel like crazy in any specific regard, but it is a very cohesive package. The interior, it is very hard to fault. The materials are great. There's a lot of technology. It has everything that you would be expecting and then some, especially when you take into account how spacious it is front and back, and the range that it offers with the power for the price. So they're being very aggressive with what they're bringing to New Zealand. Really have their crosshairs set on specific electric SUVs that we know very well. So if you are on the market for those, you would be crazy not to go and have a look at these as well.
So it delivers on the Leapmotor values of cutting-edge technology, friendly innovations with the safety stuff, and then affordability by being priced around $57,000. So how about that? Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to Tarmac Life, and we will see you on the next one.
That's right. See ya.